I was laying there and I was like, okay, Jake, you need to eat. Like, can I order you Chipotle? So I ordered him a Chipotle burrito, like waiting in the hospital room for him to be able to eat. Cause like in my brain, I'm like, he cannot go back and get hurt. It was pouring rain in Charlotte too. I was like, he's exhausted. He's not going to have stretch. He's going to walk in. He's not going to do any of his pregame routine. He's not going to be able to eat. Like and honestly, the distraction helped. Like I'm having a meltdown. Like, how can I make sure Jake doesn't get hurt and he plays okay? Like that was my goal, and I delivered this child.
We're back. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Maria Martin, and I'm a sports reporter, anchor, and host at 11 Alive in Atlanta. And if you need a little bit of a refresher, because it's been a minute since we've done this podcast, I'm a coach's wife. And so my passion behind this podcast was giving you an inside look at what the lives of the spouses are behind your favorite athletes, coaches, whatever you want to talk about, we are talking to them. It's such a cool concept, and I was so excited when we started it that it made so much sense to me to go ahead and launch a season 2. And there is no one else I would rather do it with than Meggi Matthews. She is our first episode. The relaunch had to be Meggi. Her and I are actually friends outside of this episode and outside of daily life of seeing her at Falcons games. We've been friends for a minute, so was super excited when she wanted to come back on, because remember, she was an episode last season. So now this season, life looks so much different for Meggi, and I love talking to her and Jake because they are two really humble, incredible people who are super busy. So I'm very grateful that she took some time out of her very busy schedule. She's got a little one running around now. And if you remember, there was a viral moment that Meggi had whenever she gave birth to their first baby boy. We're going to talk all about that in this episode, and she's really going to tell you the actual story, not just what you saw on Twitter, but exactly how it went down from beginning to end. It is such a fun episode. Welcome, Meggi Matthews, and this is Married to the Game. All right, so last time that we talked, life was really different for you.
I wasn't even pregnant yet, I don't think.
I don't think you were. I was trying to think before we started talking about this. Like, were you pregnant? Were you not? I don't think you were.
Gosh, when would that have been? No, I don't think I was yet. I think that was right after the season ended, right? Yeah, so I don't think I was yet.
Oh my gosh.
No, or at least we had no clue, at least.
maybe that was part of it.
Yeah.
But now you have a baby.
I do.
Becket is amazing.
He is.
How has life changed since you guys have brought a baby into the picture?
Oh my goodness. Amazing, but obviously so much work.
Yeah.
Adjustments all around.
Yeah.
We kind of just got thrown into it because he was born in the season, so we didn't really have a choice. It was like, oh, well, you're just going to have to kind of run with it,
right,
and figure it out as you go. So many adjustments for Jake, obviously being in season.
Yeah.
He just kind of had to go along to get along. It was like, is this baby going to wake me up while I'm asleep and I have to go practice the next day?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So we figured it out. It actually went really well. I think more of the adjustments have come now as we've been in camp for 6 weeks. And as you know, they're in the dorms for 3 weeks where they're gone.
Which that's not the case for every NFL team. But
No.
the Falcons, they do. They stay.
Yes, they stay. So, and the first year we were together, they didn't stay because of COVID. The second year, I think they did stay. I may be mistaking. But they did stay this year. A little bit, but I have my family here, so I have plenty of help with him. But still,
nice.
You know, all day, all night long.
Yeah.
With a 7-month-old that has decided, or I guess he was 8 months old at the time, pulling up on things and standing and crawling. You're like, holy crap, this is when people are like, you become kind of a single mom for a couple weeks out of, you know, camp. You really do. And then obviously when they finally do get to come home, they're exhausted. So it's not like, you know, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? So it's a lot of adjustments of just figuring out roles during the season.
Yeah, I feel like that's a huge balance too for everybody that a lot of people don't talk about, is that during football season, they're so busy, whether it be a coach or a player or whatever, you don't really want to put extra on them whenever they come home. So what is that like with a newborn trying to navigate Jake in season? I mean, that's probably very difficult. Harder than you want to admit, I'm sure.
Definitely harder. We had like a kind of rotating family come in for 4 weeks at first, but my kind of goal, which I joke the next baby we're having will not be in season for many, many reasons. But I
know when you told me you were pregnant when you were due, I was like, I'm going to be praying for you, girl.
In November. I was like, well, technically it's supposed to be due in December.
Right.
And when we found out, the bye week was supposed to be literally like 2 days after my due date, the bye week was supposed to start. So we were like, oh, we're going to be great. We're going to be fine. And obviously much different plans occurred.
Can't wait to talk about that, but keep going.
So yeah, it was, you know what, if it happened again, we figured it out, it'll be fine. But like kind of back to a newborn in the season, I would feed him, change him, do what I could. And I will give it to Jake. He was up, he was changing him, he was doing all the things. And luckily we did have the weekend because he was born on obviously Thursday night and they played Thursday night. So we had the weekend off to kind of like acclimate and figure out what was going on. But really it would just be Jake coming home and napping with him and getting to, because they really do sleep so much. So if I wasn't feeding or something like that, they would just nap together and lay together. I think that was probably Jake's like favorite thing. And then Jake, from the beginning, has always been the nap time, or not nap time, excuse me, the bath time guy. Yeah, I'm thinking of napping, but the bath time guy. So he does bath and bed kind of routine and still does that now. Obviously, when he was little, it's a little bit different. But now he'll come home and do the bath. And sometimes I'll get the, hey, let's tag team it tonight, where he just gets to do the fun bath part and then I get to do the lotion and the pajamas and the bending over because he's a little bit exhausted from practice. But we got a good routine down. I hear a little bug in my ear. Hey, like number 2. And I'm like, slow down, hun. Slow down. We got a good routine going.
We don't want to throw another one into the mix, but you will eventually.
Yeah, he wants 4, so we'll see.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's one of 7, so he loves
That's true.
The big family. Like comes in, turns the TV on. Like he can't sit in silence.
Yeah.
So if he's in the house, TVs are all on because like he grew up with so much noise.
Wow.
Loves the chaos.
So you're welcoming the more babies.
Yeah. I have the TVs off during the day when he's not home. I appreciate the silence.
So as soon as he comes home, it's just like
it's just
turning around?
TVs. Yes, all the time.
It's really funny because I just, I've known you for a while. And then when I see you with this baby and I see you on the field, it's like really amazing to watch how everything has changed. And I think the coolest thing is watching Jake too. You know, after practice and training camp, that's got to be just the best feeling.
Oh, it's so fun. And just him crawling over and getting, I know, because when we first started, and not dating, but being together, and first year we couldn't go to camp because of, COVID. So when we started to get to go to camp, he,
because you guys got married in 21.
We got married in 21. He proposed to me actually at this house.
Oh, I love that.
So I would be like, hey, I'm going to come to camp. And I would go days and days and days. He's like, are you going to come every day? And I was like, yeah, I want to come every day. And he was like, okay, well, because he would get to sneak home for like 30 minutes at the end of the day and just say like, hey.
That's nice.
Yeah, they get like an hour off in the evenings. And a lot of guys can't go home because a lot of guys live in Atlanta. We're very fortunate to live only about 10 minutes from the facility.
Yeah.
So he'd run home. But then when we had Becket, he's like, you're coming today, right? And I was like, well, what about when I came? You asked me like, are you coming? Are you?
So funny.
Yeah. So he's like, now it's like you are coming, right? Like I am seeing Becket,
You will
right?
be there.
Yeah. Like when they practiced in Miami, you're bringing Becket to Miami for 5 days, right? And I was like, yeah, because he's like, I can FaceTime you, I can call you, you're fine, but he's like, I can't FaceTime and like see Becket, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, just me and my little caravanning over to camp every day.
You do such a good job though. Every time I see you, you look like you got it all together. I know there's a lot going on.
Every day at camp on the hill.
Such an easy baby.
He is such an easy baby. I can't like take a ton of credit because he is such an easy baby. He's so happy all the time.
How great has it been to have other coaches' wives and players' wives who a lot of them are moms too. I'm sure it's a nice kind of sorority that you guys have.
It is, and it's we are so spread out, which so it's like it is kind of cool because like I'll go down to Atlanta and I'll see like some of the girls in Atlanta, or I'll go over to like Brazelton area and see a bunch of girls in the Brazelton area. Yeah. So it's really fun having like pockets of everybody, and you have so many different ages. We have like older kids, like our offensive line coaches' kids are a little bit older, Hudson and Jordan, and they're the sweetest kids. They would come to camp, and Hudson, I think he's in 4th grade, is just obsessed with Becket. Oh, so at camp, so Hudson would be holding Becket and playing with Becket, and so I would be calling Meredith, I need you to bring your kids to camp. Like, they're my babysitters. Please bring them. So, no, we have an awesome community, and then a couple of the coaches' wives have kids. I think there's a little girl that's about a month or 2 younger than Becket, and so they get to like roll around and play with each other. So it is really nice, and yeah, it's funny. Sometimes you think about not waking Jake up in the middle of the night if you have some kind of like, not dire emergency, but enough of something that you need somebody and you would call one of them. Yeah. I've talked to a couple of our coaches' wives who've been like, yeah, I've had to call other coaches' wives in the middle of the night because I had X, Y, and Z happen, had to take my kid to urgent care and had no one to stay with my child at, midnight.
Yeah.
So I definitely think we're all definitely there for each other, but when you start mixing in kids, it's like, absolutely, I'll jump in anytime you need me.
Yeah, you lean on other people.
Yeah, because you know how hard it is yourself too.
Yeah.
So it's a very good backbone to have, and luckily I have my family really close too.
Yeah, that's super nice. All right, you said it's hard. Let's talk about having a baby in the middle of football season, because that was not easy. I remember, I'm sure everybody was coming up to you like, this baby is due in football season, and you're balancing trying to not be anxious about it and trying to not overthink. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. Every time I would see you, it would be like, look, this baby's coming one way or another.
Something's happening, yes.
But as you're getting closer to the due date, are you thinking, please don't be on a game day?
Yes, so every game, we got to a point the last 6 weeks of my pregnancy, I was swelling. My blood pressure was raising a little bit.
Because you go to every game at home for sure, and you go to some road games too.
I do, yes. So obviously at a certain week, I couldn't travel anymore, outside of the state. Sure. So we got to that point, and I actually joked about going to the Carolina game. A couple of girls were going, and I was like, maybe I'll go to the Carolina game. It's just a drive. I've got 4 more weeks. Everything's done. Maybe we'll just go. So the week before, I remember going to the game, and we had this not protocol, but rule in place that I was entering through the lower part of the stadium. I was trying to stay on because I have a huge belly, walking through the crowds, elbows, people going nuts. I was okay, what's the best way to get in and out of these games and get to go to the game and not lose my mind? So I would get in the game, get to my seat, I'd be good. I'd have 5 people sitting with me trying to okay, just keep you calm. And I remember it was the Sunday before I think we had a home game, and it was such a close game because I think 7 of our games last year were within one touchdown. Yep. So I'm sitting there, and every single game is a nail biter. So everyone's
which is great
just
for
stay
your
calm.
pregnancy.
It's amazing. Stay calm. You're not going to go into labor. You're not going to go to labor. And in our family chat, it would just be a joke. Are you in labor yet? Is this game putting you in labor? And I was like, I mean, practically. So then we would get home. I would get on the couch, elevate the feet, be so swollen. Yeah. Jake would be probably elevated over on the other side with me. We're both just struggling. And and then my blood pressure was raising a little bit just because I'd never had weight on, obviously 30 pounds of a baby. Yeah. My blood pressure was kind of creeping up. So they were already keeping an eye on that, because if you get to a certain point of it being too high, then you have to immediately induce. So I was okay, just lay low. So then we got to, that week before, I went to the doctor, and they were like, hey, you're 2 centimeters dilated and 80% effaced. And I'm so sorry for all the men watching. You probably don't want to, know the details, but it's very important details. Because anybody who's had a child will be like, okay, wow, you're really getting close. Yeah. So I called my mother-in-law that day, and she was like, oh my gosh, you're going to have this baby soon. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she was like, yeah, you are. She goes,
so this was 4 weeks before your due date?
This was 4 weeks before my due date.
Okay.
And some people I was at 35 weeks and 3 days when I went to that appointment, and I was already 2 centimeters dilated. So, and some people can stay like that for weeks, but I am relatively active, and I had been walking my entire pregnancy. So my doctor said, do not walk the week of the Thursday night game. We need to get you past the Thursday night game. Sunday, they were going to induce me at 37 weeks because my blood pressure was just kind of at that point. They knew he was a big baby. So they were like, let's just get you to the Sunday. We'll induce you Sunday. That was the earliest they could induce me. They couldn't even induce me Friday. That was the earliest they could. And then Jake would have off Monday, Tuesday. He'd back at practice Wednesday. I was like, perfect. We're doing great. So Jake was like, do not walk, don't do anything, just relax, chill out, don't do anything. I was like, okay. So my mom was like, I'll come and stay up with you Wednesday night. Because at that point, even Saturday night when Jake was down at the hotel, they were like, people are staying with you. Yeah. I was like, okay, we've got a good plan in place. Everything was ready. Hospital bags are packed in the office. We were ready to go. We felt good. So yeah, Thursday comes around, or Wednesday night comes around. Wednesday, I was like, oh, I made it to Wednesday. He let me go get my hair done. I wanted to just go get my hair done that day. Obviously, the things you think about before you have a baby. So I got my hair done. And then Wednesday night, I was like, gosh, I don't feel great. Like something feels off. Like I had like a low-grade fever, chills, body aches. I was like, oh gosh, maybe I'm sick. Like this sucks. Like I don't want to be sick Sunday. Let me just like relax, lay low. So my mom comes and tries to take care of me, and she's like, I'm gonna stay away from you because like if you have this baby Sunday and you're still sick, like I need to not be sick.
Right.
So Wednesday night, this is actually funny. A lot of people don't know this part of the story. Wednesday night, he stopped moving, and he was very active at night, especially, or not at night, but in the evening. At night, he actually didn't really kick me much. I got to sleep.
Yeah.
So I was like, gosh, this doesn't feel right. He's not moving. My mom gave me a popsicle. She gave me sugar. She was trying to do anything she possibly could to get him moving around. And he wasn't. And I was like, you know what? I'm 36 and a half weeks. There he is. If you hear him. I'm 36.
He likes this part of the story.
Yes, he does. I'm 36 and a half weeks. Like, let me just go to the hospital. We have an incredible OB. I texted him and he was like, hey, just go get checked out. Just make sure everything's okay. Put me on the monitor. It says 10 p.m. Blood pressure's a little high. She's like, nope, you're still 2 centimeters, still the same effaced. You're good. It's like 11 p.m. And I told the nurse the exact scenario we were in. I was like, I cannot go into labor tonight.
There is literally a game tomorrow.
Like, I cannot do it. And at 11 p.m., Jake called me to say goodnight because it was an 8 p.m. game. So
obviously he didn't know what was going on.
No clue. So I'm sitting in the hospital bed and I was like, good night, honey. I love you.
Oh my gosh.
And he has my location. So I'm really amazed he didn't look. He had no idea I went to the hospital. Not one clue. Even when I called him the next morning and told him I was in labor, he still had no idea. I went to the hospital the night before. But they watched me for a little bit. They were like, you're fine. Just like go home, take a Tylenol, and go to bed. And I was like, okay. So I took a Tylenol, fell asleep. And then at like 4 a.m., I was like, holy crap. Like my back is really hurting. Like I was like almost like in a fetal position because my back was aching so bad. I was like, gosh, do I have COVID? Like, do I have the flu? Like, what's going on? So I called my mom up and she was like, have you timed them? And I actually saw the contraction timer on my phone and it was really funny because you can see the intervals. And I was like, yeah, but it's like 5 minutes and then 7 minutes and then 8 minutes and then 5 minutes. And she was like, I was like, maybe it's just body aches coming and going. And she was like, I don't know. And my mom had incredibly fast labors. Like she got to the hospital with me at 7, had me at 7:30, like wow. 27, like 25 minutes getting to the hospital, she would have me. So she was like, let's just watch you. So I walk around, and I would get, I guess, a contraction. I would like fall to like my hands and knees, scream, get back up and go start my laundry. She's like, no, you're in labor. She's like, body aches aren't like that. Like you're in labor. And I was like, okay. What do we do? And so I watched the Ring doorbell footage and at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, it's just her and I scurrying out, packing the car. I'm not really doing much. I'm just standing there like I'm going to die. And I'm laying in the 3rd row of the car because I have bucket seats and I needed to lay. And I'm sticking my head out the window like a dog and I'm screaming. I'm like, I'm miserable. And so I get there. And they were like, it was 7, 8. My doctor was on call that day.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, I'll be there at 7. I got there at 6:30. I walked in, the nurse saw me and she said, no, with more colorful language. And she was the same nurse who took care of me earlier. And I was like, yep. And I got in there and he was like, you're almost 3.5 centimeters already, contractions 5 minutes apart. And I was like, holy crap, this is happening.
But the craziest thing about this whole thing is that Jake has no idea.
No idea at this point.
And this is game day.
No idea. It's just game day. No idea at this point. So I call Jake. My mom was like, are you going to tell Jake? And I was like, well, I have to.
Yeah,
and I was like, she was like, well, what if he's not going to like come? What if you don't progress quickly? And we all like kind of like had like a war room. We were like, no, he's coming. Let's see what we can do. We have to call Jake. So we called Jake no, I did not call Jake. I called the hotel.
Okay, so real quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So how many of the Falcons staff members knew about this scenario? Like,
we had like a plan in place. Yeah. So Sarah Hogan, the assistant to our head coach, knew. Obviously, like Arthur knew. Arthur's wife Allison knew. Tanya and Terry knew. I'm actually, you know what? I'm lying. Probably everybody in the building knew that this was eventually going to be a possibility.
Right.
The entire O-line knew.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what do I do? So I was like, first, let me
Call the hotel.
Yeah, Terry's assistant Laura knew. I was like, let me call the hotel. So I called the hotel and I'm like, and ironically, I never know what hotel they're in. So I just checked Jake's location. I was like, I don't even know what freaking hotel you're in. So I just look at his
Meanwhile,
location.
you're in labor.
Yeah, I'm in labor and I'm like, where are you? Let me look up the whatever hotel this is, the number. So I call the lobby at 6 a.m. or head person. And I was like, hey, I need to get to Jake Matthews' room. Because at this point I had called his phone like 5 times. He didn't answer.
Yeah.
And he doesn't sleep with the ringer on, so I figured. And so he was like, ma'am, I can't give you that information. And I said, dude, I am in labor. You need to get me to his room. And I tried to say it as calmly and as nicely as I could, and it did not come out as well as I intended.
Okay.
And he was like, well, I can call his room, and that's about all I can do.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay. He couldn't connect me. So then I hang up, wait for that to happen, and then I call Tanya. And I'm sure Tanya knew at 7 a.m. when I called her, this is not good.
I'm sure.
But I knew she was awake. She has 4 kids. So
Yeah.
I call her and I was like, yep, I'm in labor. And she goes, oh my gosh. And I was like, can you go tell your husband, who's my husband's GM, that his wife's in labor, and like go knock on his hotel room door? I was like, as awkward as that one is.
I don't have another option.
I don't have another option. And what's so ironic is there was a veterans baby shower that day for the team to go volunteer at, the girls. And I was like signed up to go. My mom was going to go with me. Like it was going to be so fun. And that didn't happen. And so, yeah, Terry, and I think Terry did not actually go knock on his door, but obviously Tanya called Terry, let him know what was going on. I had texted Sarah Hogan. I was like, I'm apologizing. I'm so sorry to wake you up, but I'm in labor. I'm really sorry to bother you. I feel awful I think I apologized 50 times to everybody. Everyone's like, you can't like control this.
Yeah,
I was
there's
like,
nothing
I know, but I
that
feel
you
so
can do.
bad.
That's funny.
So then Jake said when the hotel, the classic, yep, the hotel phone rang, and I knew something was very wrong because he's like, I've not had a hotel wake-up call since I was in college. And at that point he called me, and I will probably embarrass him to tell him that, I think the emotions may have overcome him in the moment when he called me, because he didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I'm
he
sure.
was like, I don't know what to do. And I've seen so many people on Twitter and social media and things I shouldn't be reading. It's like, he should have stayed with her. This is ridiculous. But people don't know. I was telling him, no, go. Like, I was an athlete. Like, I'm a competitor. I understand. You've worked 9 seasons for this streak. I'm not going to just, I'm okay. I can do this. Well, we'll be fine. We're going to figure this out.
And that's y'all's decision anyway.
Absolutely. And so, but I don't want people to be like, oh, did he just go? No, his wife, I told him to go. Yeah. I said, please go.
Yeah.
I knew his commitment to the team. So
and Becket was like, wait a second, hold on.
His commitment, I understood it. So I was like, we'll figure it out. We're going to do this. Let's just find out our options.
Yeah.
And so he went downstairs to like a little war room, and it was in the lobby of this hotel at 7 a.m. And it was Arthur and Terry and Rich McKay and Coach Ledford, our O-line coach. Jake calls him Led, so I have to like refrain from saying Led because people are like, who is that?
Who is that?
And I'm sure a handful of other people that I'm forgetting that I need to thank. I think I've thanked everybody at some point. Please, thank you so much for getting my husband to me.
A lot of people made it happen.
A lot of people made that happen. And so they had a plane to try to get him to me, and they didn't have a crew to fly the plane.
This is my favorite part of the story.
And so they said to Jake, hey, you're gonna have to drive. And so one of the...
How many people actually know that? I don't think many people know
Not a lot.
he
People
drove.
think he flew.
No, he didn't fly.
I checked commercial flights. I checked everything. People thought he flew.
No, he drove.
So I was like, they were like, he's gonna have to fly. And of course in my mind, I'm like, he's gonna tighten up in the car. Like he doesn't want to drive to Atlanta on a Tuesday night for a dinner, like on an off night. I was like, he's gonna tighten up. This is gonna be a nightmare. And so they were like, one of our security personnel will drive you, and it's a 3.5-hour drive to Gainesville. Luckily they were in Charlotte. If they weren't in Charlotte, I don't know what we would have done.
You're already in labor too.
Yes.
So time is of the essence.
Could not have the epidural at the point. I forgot to mention this part. In the my portion of the war room, they were like, we can give you pain meds, like oral pain meds, or we can give you the epidural, but it will slow down labor. And all I'm thinking is like, I have to do whatever I have to do to get him back for the game.
Yeah.
Like, what do I have to do? So
Yeah.
they were like, you're going to have to labor naturally. And I was like, great.
Wow.
Until we can give you the epidural, which comes a bit later. So Jake gets in the car, and they were kind of waiting to see like, oh, can we get a crew? Can we get a crew? What can we do? And Art looked at him and was like, you got to make a decision. Like, you got to go. We'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah.
If you're going to go. And Jake's like, all right, let's go. So he gets in the car at like 8:30, and he's like, I'll see you at like noon. Because he didn't get in the car.
So he told him that.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to be back.
Oh, I mean, I think it was like common knowledge that he was going to come back. I knew it was common knowledge he was going back. So I was like, okay. So he gets in the car, he's driving. He is on speaker with me while I'm in contractions. And I'm still like, to this day, like slightly bitter he didn't get to see me, because by the time he got there, I had had the epidural. So he didn't see me experience actual contractions.
Just on the phone.
Oh, yeah. And at like one point, like my mom was about to like be in tears, because she's like, when you can't help your child and they're in that much pain, it's awful. And I'm on the phone with him. I'm having awful contractions. They moved me to labor and delivery. We're like, okay, now we're like, how do we do this? So the nurses know the situation. They've got me with this ball, and they've got me bouncing on this ball. They've got me moving around in different positions to help him like move down, like doing all these different things to help promote, him coming quicker. And at one point I literally remember I was like, okay, well, I'm better in my makeup because this is happening. So I'm bouncing on this birth ball, hooked up to the IVs, and about every 5 minutes I'm getting contractions. So I'm stopping, having a meltdown, and then going back, doing the IV. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. Like, we're doing it. So then they said, our doctor came in, and he's amazing. We're still very close to him. I will only have all of my children in Atlanta because of him.
I love that.
I just adore him. And I said, he was like, okay, here's the plan. We're gonna do the epidural about an hour to 20, or an hour, anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour before he gets here, whatever you feel like you can handle. I was like, okay. And then he said, and we're not going to break your water until he pulls off of 85 or 985 onto a certain, like it was down to like, and my mother-in-law.
Like an exit.
An exit. My mother-in-law, who's had 7 kids, was the same way. Like, they cannot break your water until this happens, because once your water breaks, it's on.
Yeah.
So I was laying there and I was like, okay, Jake, you need to eat. Like, can I order you Chipotle? So I ordered him a Chipotle burrito, like waiting in the hospital room for him to be able to eat. Cause like in my brain, I'm like, he cannot go back and get hurt. It was pouring rain in Charlotte too. I was like, he's exhausted. He's not going to have stretch. He's going to walk in. He's not going to do any of his pregame routine. He's not going to be able to eat. Like, and honestly, the distraction helped. Like, I'm having a meltdown. Like, how can I make sure Jake doesn't get hurt and he plays okay? Like, that was my goal, and I delivered this child.
You're going through a lot in this moment.
In this moment, I was like, this is not good. So,
oh my gosh.
I think it was 5 centimeters dilated about 11:30, and Jake's about an hour, 45 minutes about 45 minutes out. I was like, give me the epidural. And I wasn't even sure I wanted one at the point, because I don't love the feeling of numbness. So and the thought of the needle going in my spine and my husband not being there, it was just like a lot. So I was like, just give me the epidural. Yeah. And they come in, Jake's on FaceTime with me as I'm getting the epidural. And then they were like, your water is about to break. You cannot move anove. Like, you can't, like,
no ball,
we were going to walk.
Yeah.
And they were like, you can't walk. Your water's going to break if you walk. And I was like, great. Okay. Moving on. So Jake gets there at like 12:30, and then he walks in, and he was like, you could tell he felt awful. Like, my wife has been here, like, laboring in pain, and I'm supposed to, be the one. And I had my mom, which was amazing, but I'm supposed to be the one to be here. And so he gets there, eats a Chipotle burrito. I hadn't eaten in like 24 hours because I had been sick.
Yes.
So, and then at that point I had the epidural, so I was sitting pretty. I was like,
great.
Let's rock. And then at that point it went from not inducing labor to now we need to induce it. Like, we need to hurry up, because we knew we had,
what was the window?
He got there at 12:30. I had to leave by 3:30. We had 3 hours, and I was at 5 centimeters at that point. So we were like, okay. And it's so funny. A couple of the guys, like the O-linemen, were texting my parent, because one of the guys, he went to college with Jake, and so he knew my parents because he had come around a good bit and was texting my dad, what's the update? What's the update? And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's so sweet.
My dad's like, I am in the waiting room. Please leave me alone. And
I have no idea.
I have no idea what's happening right now. So at that point, yeah, it was, let's figure out how to induce it. So they broke my water, and we knew we had 3 hours on the dot. And I knew in my brain, I have 45 minutes to an hour to push, because you have to have about that amount of time. Some women can push 1 to 4 hours, they said. And I said, okay, well, I don't have 4 hours.
Yeah.
I have two to get to the point of pushing, and then I've got like 45 from there. So like chop chop. And I had literally, like, if I'm here, like right in front of my face is a clock. And so I knew exactly what time it was. And Jake's looking at the clock, I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So yeah, 2 hours later, I was at like 9, and I was like 10, and my doctor's like, come on, let's just start pushing and see where we can go. And 45 minutes later, he was born at 3:17. They put him on my chest for like 2 minutes, and I was like, okay, Jake, like, you have to take him, because normally the mom gets them for like an hour, like skin on skin. And sorry, I have hiccups. And so I was like, okay, Jake, take him. So Jake took him for 10 minutes. We took a picture that ended up on Thursday Night Football, and he left at 3:30.
He's in the car like 5 minutes later.
He was in the car 5 minutes later, and then on Arthur's jet in Gainesville, because Arthur Blank's jet came to Gainesville first.
Yeah.
So Jake didn't have to like drive to Atlanta. And Jake was on the plane at 3:45. And
I feel like people have no idea. They just see Jake running in flip-flops and think like,
they have no idea. No one's ever heard like the actual full. And I love my husband very much, but when I think he did a podcast with the team about it, he did not remember any of these details.
I'm sure.
Not at all.
Well, it's hard to remember, especially when like the chaos of getting woken up just 3 hours prior. He's in his hotel room, or 4 hours probably, and there's somebody calling his hotel room, and then all of this is happening. There's like a lot of emotions. He's also like game day, but that's probably so secondary at this point in the day. But then he's also thinking about the streak. You're thinking about the streak, and for people who don't know what it is,
how do I get on the plane?
People who don't know what it is, it's the longest active streak in the NFL.
Yeah, it's like, basically they nickname it like the Iron Man streak, but it's the longest active streak for current players. So he's played the most consecutive games of current NFL players.
That's hard. That's so hard to do. And like, if I was you, if I were him, like I would be in the same situation. People don't understand that. But it's so crazy to me, because people see the video of Jake running in his flip-flops, and they think this was just like,
he showed up.
Day.
Yeah, he's here. No. And they don't know, he literally ran in, I think 10 minutes before Art had to put in the...
So he missed pregame warm-up?
Oh, completely. No, he got out there for pregame.
Okay.
He literally threw his stuff on. But
he had a burrito.
He did have a burrito. Fueled by Chipotle for that one. So he came in, and it was right before they had to put out actives, like the not actives or whatever. And it was literally 10 minutes before that.
Was Arthur, who was like calling or contacting Jake
I think
at
like
this point?
Sarah, Led, and Arthur all were like in constant communication with him.
God, that's so nerve-wracking for everybody.
So nerve-wracking for everybody, because it's like, he's a captain too. Like,
you know, if this game would have been the normal 1 p.m. kick, would have never happened. Like, he would have never been there. It was like such a blessing in disguise. Even though they were in Charlotte and they weren't in Atlanta. It's just, if it was going to happen on a game day, it'd be Thursday.
It could have happened any other Thursday too.
I know.
Like, just not a Sunday. We just told him not Sunday.
Of course, like the one Thursday night football game.
Thursday night football game.
That's hilarious.
I was like, okay, well, you know. And what a lot of people actually don't know is, and this, I don't want to be TMI, but Jake delivered Becket.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he like got to help the doctor deliver Becket
really
without going into like any more details. He got to help Jake our doctor deliver Becket. So like Jake had literally gone on a plane and had like helped deliver a baby, and is like flying to this game and then running in and then playing Thursday night football.
Oh my gosh. Have you asked him, I mean, I'm sure you have, but like since all this happened, like where was he at that day?
He says it's like a blur.
I'm sure.
He said it was like a blur. He was like,
I think it
was the biggest culmination of like, because for the past 8 years, it's just been Jake and football.
Yeah.
Or 7, I guess. So then I came along, and that's different. Like, your wife is an adult.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there's nothing like bringing a child into the universe. And then you bring a kid in, and it was this like okay, holy crap, here comes my family and my football, like head to head.
Yeah.
How am I going to be there for both of them?
Yeah.
And he did a great job, like, because I wouldn't have wanted him, like we said, with the streak. Like, I understood that. And it was never him choosing, like, oh, I'm going to choose football over my family or vice versa. He did a really good job of trying to figure out his priorities and doing them together. Now, his dad, who played 19 years in the NFL, I think was having a full-on, like he was so nervous for Jake, too. Like, I asked him that the other day, actually, when we were at his house. I was like, how are you feeling? And he was like, yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, but we made it. And honestly, I think the distraction helped me. The distraction helped Jake.
Yeah.
He jogged in, played in pouring rain, and he was cold that game. And then he flew back with the team, asked me if he could go get a couple of hours of sleep at home after the game. And I was like, I have been awake 24 hours. You need to get your butt back up here.
Good for you.
And so he was like, but no, I let him go home and let him go to sleep. And he was like, I'll be back up at like 6:30 in the morning. And he'll kill me for saying this too, but he did not get to the hotel until 9:15, and I wanted to fight him very much. I was incredibly angry at that point. I was like, for everything I have done, you couldn't have gotten here on time. And he's like, I slept through my alarm. I said, you've never slept through your alarm one time in your football career, but right now.
Of course, right now.
So yeah, that was the extent.
Oh my gosh, it's just
but
the
no one
craziest
knows
story.
like the whole extent of the story. Like it was so detailed and like so many moving pieces. And then when he jogged in, obviously in the infamous flip-flops, I'll never hear the end of those flip-flops.
The sliders.
I literally want to frame them. I'm like, those need to be framed in Beckett's like room, like the infamous flip-flops.
It's funny because I saw the video, and I think because I know you and I've known you for a long time, I'm thinking to myself like, yeah, okay, it's great, Jake's running in there, but like Meggi's got to be just having the craziest day of her life.
I held Becket. Okay, well, yeah, it was crazy because I'm a psycho about games. Like I was a sports reporter. That's how we met each other in Alabama. So I was in, Jake will never let me live down that I worked at Alabama too because he's an Aggie. So when I was in Alabama, like obviously football, like I get it.
Yeah.
And I lost my train of thought completely.
That's
what the heck were we talking about?
I just said you were having the craziest day of your life.
Okay, so that's what I was saying. So like, so football, I've been like the biggest sports fan since I was younger. So I get so into games. Like I'm so aggressive about games. Like people know you don't talk to me during like an offensive drive.
Yeah.
My mom joked about Becket this year. Like she's like, oh, I'm so excited to come to games. I was like, yeah. And you can like, he will hang out with you during offensive drives. Like I watch every play of Jake's like detailed. Like,
yeah. Oh, I know.
And that might just be like my own, love for the game. But like now that my husband's in it, like I'm into it. So they had to take him because he was actually preemie.
Yeah.
And he was 6 pounds, 3.5 weeks early. So like, I don't want to know what he would have been 3.5 weeks later.
He was a big baby.
He would have been a big baby. Yeah. So since he was a preemie, they had to take him to something called a transition nursery. He didn't have to go to the NICU because he looked good, but they have to go for 2 hours to be just like watched.
Yeah.
So at that point, like, yeah, that was the weird part too. Everyone left the room after I delivered him. So at like 3:30 when Jake left, like the doctor was like, okay, we'll give you some space. The nurse was like, we'll give you some space. And I was like,
and you're by yourself.
I'm by myself with this newborn. And I was like, what the heck just happened?
I know. I remember you said you looked at the screen and Jake was playing football and you were just like in a twilight zone.
It was like a fever dream. To this day, I was like, this is a fever dream. Like, why am I holding this baby?
That's wild
and
to
this
me.
Person is on TV and
he was just here.
And this is this baby's father. I was like, this is like, that like gif with the guy with all the numbers around his head.
Yes.
That was me. I was like, what just happened?
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, and then they moved him to the transition nursery for 2 hours. So they took him away from me and I was like,
you're by yourself.
And then they had to wheel me you move from labor and delivery down to like the mother's ward kind of thing. So they had to wheel me down there and that was when the game was starting. So I have like Jersey Mike's in one hand because you can't have like deli meat. And then I've got my iPad sitting on my lap because the game was about to start. And I was like, everyone shut up. Like the game's about to start. So they're wheeling me through the hospital in a wheelchair with the iPad on my lap and I'm watching. And then I get in there and like I've literally just given birth like 3 hours later and I'm screaming at the TV. And then I had Becket back by halftime.
Like a true athlete.
I was holding him and I'm watching Jake and I was just like, what? I don't know what happened, but here we are. And I was so thrilled that Jake got out of the game with a good game and healthy. That's all like I was praying for. I was like, just get him out healthy. Yeah. Like, cause he's tight. He's not had his proper, cause he is a routine fiend.
Yeah.
Like
that's why he's played for so long.
Yes. He rolls out every night, stretches every night. We do Pilates on Tuesdays, on our off days. Like, we have such a routine. We go to the same restaurants on Tuesday nights and Friday nights. Wow. Like, we are such routine people. So getting him so out of his routine, and I joke like maybe God was trying to teach you to like let go of your routine a touch. He doesn't like that joke very much, but
I bet.
I was just like, please get him out healthy, just because not being in that routine, that's all I wanted. And now I have a 10-month-old downstairs.
You want to bring him up here?
Sure.
Hi. See, now we're gonna go into podcast. Say hi.
Hi, Tunky boy.
Hi. Look, now you have this. Oh, look.
Can you say cheese? Say hi.
He's the smiliest baby ever.
He's very smiley. Can you say hi? Do you wait? Oh,
we
lost the ball.
Does he love football?
Yes. He actually thinks like when you hit the football on the ground, it's like the funniest thing ever. I'll have to send you the video. My father-in-law was doing it to him, and we were laying at the ranch, and he was taking the football and just banging it on the ground, and he thought he was belly laughing. He thought it was hysterical.
He's so funny.
He's enamored by watching any sports with like a moving ball on TV. But I told my husband, like, or Jake, obviously, if we didn't have a child who was like obsessed with sports, I probably would have been a little sad. But it's fine. We'll see what you do. We'll see what you do.
Say hi.
Say hi. Hi. Becket, hi.
One day when you listen to this, you're going to be like, wait a second.
Hi.
You didn't ruin Dad's streak. Good job.
Hi, you psycho. I know, and his little shirt on the back. Yeah, Mommy, of course, has you in Falcons gear all week for first game week. Oh, it goes spin around? Oh, yeah. Oh, look back at it, boy.
He's so cute. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
course.
And I appreciate you telling the story because this little guy's so awesome and you guys are great parents.
Yeah, Jake's very hands-on dad.
I love that.
Very hands-on dad. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Good job.
Yay. Look, Becket, look. Say yay. Yay.
So if you're watching the video portion of this, that's literally the best because you can see Bennett in the video. I was so excited. That little boy is so much of his dad. It is insane. I mean, they look like twins and he's so cute and he's such a good baby. Every single time I saw him at training camp or at games, he's always smiling, always happy, naps wherever. Meggi has a really awesome child on her hands, but appreciate that story because not a lot of people know exactly how it went down. So now you know. And now you got the inside scoop on literally the day that Bennett was born. So it's such a fun episode. And thank you guys so much for tuning in and tuning in every single time we have one of these things, which we are about to launch episode 2. And it's coming up with a World Series championship wife. We're talking to Andrea Albies. She is the wife of Braves infielder Ozzie Albies, and we're really excited for this episode because she gives you an inside look at what it is like to win a World Series, be happy for someone, and be invested in someone on the field while they're winning a World Series. It's such a cool episode, and whether or not she rode the fast bus in downtown Atlanta. I hope you know what I'm talking about when it comes to the buses because it's just so funny. You have to tune into episode 2. But thank you so much for tuning into episode 1. As always, you can look for these episodes on our 11 Alive YouTube page, and I will see you next time for Married to the Game.